as a creative business owner, I understand that the need to measure creativity and the return on the investment, but I also understand that it's like trying to nail jelly to a ceiling. So it's very difficult because there's so many different ways to measure it and so many different metrics involved. But I do know that as a currency, creativity has never been so hot. It touches our lives in every single point of the day, whether that is through a computer interface, whether it's Spotify, whether it's around the cars that we drive, it's even the production values in the films we watch. Creativity is absolutely everywhere, and we can't not be in a room where it's not. How does that relate to the creative industry and the marketing industry? I think it has huge impact on the way we behave and what we've become. I did some of my own specific study on this recently, which is 100% accurate to what was in my head. And I came up with these very interesting statistics about the importance of measuring the return on investment on creativity. And it is, I think it's quite phenomenal when you actually see. And again, that is 100% accurate. So, as you can see, furthering then on my intense research, I found a website called dictionary.com. But I thought this was a very interesting definition of creativity. It actually wasn't something I expected, because it doesn't say art or design, or it doesn't say painting or music. It says creativity is the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, or the like, and to create meaningful new ideas from forms, methods, interpretations, etc. Originality, progressiveness, or imagination. And I think that's really important, because what it actually is saying is that it isn't, when you think about creativity, it isn't just the remit of the traditional sort of agency, ad land, design, strategy, and client and marketing and brand owners. Creativity now as a currency is almost like a universal skill, if you like. And I think that's really important, that that everybody in this room begins to think of themselves as a creative person. So myself and actually Brendan last year had a very intense pleasure of working with a group of incredibly bright MIT strategic consultants whose entire proposition was to teach very large organizations on how to be creative. And one of their major sort of projects that was on at that time was working with a significantly large global health company who employed over 55,000 employees. And they were running a program within the group that basically was trying to release the right brain abilities of what was essentially an engineering and pharma company. And what they were endeavoring to succeed in was to take 55,000 people who thought with their left brain and get them to start beginning to think with their right brain in how they solve problems, to do with their processes, to do with their innovation, to do with the way they work, to do with their working environment. And I think that what was really interesting was they were saying, you've got 55,000 left brains in your organization. How about you have 55,000 right brains as well? So it was an incredible endeavor to do. I found it very, very fascinating. So, I think that these days creativity is now internationally recognized as a core commercial competence. And I think that it isn't just the responsibility of the individuals in the classic brand owner marketing world for it to be living on one side of the fence. In the 90s, this Russian dude called Altshuler developed a program called TRIZ, and it's a Russian acronym for the theory of inventive problem solving. And I think what's very interesting about this is, in a way, it sort of takes the mystery out of it, but this theory demonstrates that there are essentially 40 different ways to solve a creative problem. So it almost takes a sort of a scientific approach to creativity, which I think is really interesting. But when you test the results, it's actually mind-blowing. So, and it also then works on the idea that there's hardly anything new in the world. Somebody somewhere in the world has already invented it, or something like it. Where creativity comes into play is looking at that, identifying it, and finding out different or lateral ways to employ that. And I think that in terms of brand owners and marketing and innovation and new product development, that's a really, really interesting proposition.